Hello, and welcome to Not Just Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Josh, joined by Jackie and Laura. We are a small team of experienced paranormal investigators. Here we discuss different locations that we've investigated, along with a little history and the paranormal evidence that we've found. Today we will be discussing history and evidence about Holland Road and the legend of the Pigman in Angola, New York. Jackie, what kind of legend do we have today?
Okay, the legend itself says a deranged butcher quit his job, moved out to the family home on Holland Road, which was sparsely populated at the time. And there he continued his butcher trade on people. He would kill them and put their heads on a spike. So the legend of the Pigman involves, for the Holland Road one, involves two different incidents that happened. The Pigman story began in 1955 with the Pigman's grandfather, Elijah Derricks. He built the home on Holland Road. He married, he had two sons, Henry and Loring. They would walk along the tracks collecting coal that fell from the trains to use in the heating of their home. At that time, the trains were heated with a potbelly stove that they burned coal in. They would walk along. Sometimes the coal would fall off, and you're shoveling it and stuff, and they'd walk along the tracks and they would get the coal that hadn't been used that much that they could heat their own home. It is said that one day they decided to remove two of the railroad ties. They had a fence to fix, and they thought these railroad ties would be the perfect fix on the fence. What happened later on that afternoon, a train came by, a 6-car passenger train, and it derailed the last two cars. Supposedly, without these railroad tracks, the train, it caused the last two cars to vibrate off the tracks. They were right next to an overpass, a bridge, and as they went over the bridge, the last two cars decoupled. The first car went over the bridge and started up the hill and then slowed back down and came back to the bridge before it actually jumped the rail. The sixth car, the last car, derailed and went over the bridge. As it plunged down over the bridge, everything in that car fell to the front. What that included was the wooden seats, the curtains, and the potbelly stove, which was running at the time. So you had a car with about 50 people in it that landed with everything down at the bottom, including the people. The coal, the potbelly stove was running. There were hot coals. It caught the kerosene out of the lamps, spilled. It caught the kerosene on fire. It burned the wood. It burned the curtains. And as the town wasn't that far away, the townspeople came running because they heard the crash and stuff and trying to get these people out. They could hear the screams. The townspeople said it took 5 minutes of screaming before most of the people died. Out of 50, it says there were between 3 and 4 people that made it out of the car. The first guy that got to the car, he saw a man hanging half out the window. He grabbed that man. When he grabbed that man to get him out, he could see another man in the car, and this other man was alive and saying, "Help me." He gets the man that was half out. He turns around, hands that man to the people, that the townsmen that come. By the time he turned back to get that man was already engulfed in flames. So like I say, between about out of 50 people, only 3 or 4 of them made it out alive. The second car did not come down as far. It fared a bit better and stuff. This train accident actually happened. This has been documented that this did happen. This many people died. It did not happen on the where the train tracks crossed on the bridge. It did not happen on Holland Road, but it did happen not too far away. That helps contribute to our legend of the Pigman. Like I said, they assumed that these two kids took the rails out, and that's what made the cars derail. It was also said that the town kind of brushed it over. So it was almost like the town thought this way too, and nothing was said about it. So anyway, the two boys stayed there. They grew up. They stayed around there. After Elijah, the father's death, Henry moved into Angola, the first son, and Lauren stayed in the family home. It's more looking towards Lauren would be our Pigman. In 1906, a mysterious fire destroyed several buildings in the town, and of course, the train thing came back up, and people sort of assumed that it was the Derrick brothers. After that, the Lauren stayed in the home, but Henry moved out of town. In 1911, Lauren was volunteering with the firemen to set off the fireworks during the celebration and stuff. During the fireworks, one of them went haywire and it pierced a child's arm. Well, after this, the town kind of gave up on Lauren. They sort of ostracized him. He moved back to the home. He did marry Betsy Crabtree, and they had a son, William Derricks. William supposedly was born with what they call frontal nasal dysplasia. That's where the two sides of his face did not meet up. A lot of times it makes it look like, you may have a third eye or the mouth isn't meeting up and stuff like that. It also pushes the nose in and makes it broader, which is one of the reasons why it's called a pigman. As a toddler, William was rescued. He was walking along the train tracks. He did not hear the train or whatever, and he was rescued by it was actually a one-armed boxer who had joined the circus and was traveling with the circus. Him and William were friends throughout their entire life. William didn't go to school. He didn't get off Holland Road that much. So him and this one-armed boxer were friends. And the one-armed boxer, when William got old enough, he got him an internship at a butcher shop. And he also introduced him to sideshow promoters and circus people and stuff. In the 1940s and 1950s, William did spend most of his time touring with the circus, with the sideshow. He married somebody in the sideshow, and they had a son who was William Jr., and possibly twin daughters. Now, you don't hear a lot about the twin daughters. We don't know if they were born and died or if they were born and kept at the house or whatever and stuff. But William, when he lost he quit the job in the butcher shop, the town dump had opened up and he got himself a job there. So he worked in the town dump, and he would, people would come and he would put the garbage, he'd go through the garbage and he'd put it in separate piles. A lot of times he would take, the better stuff home with him and stuff. In 1966, his wife died, and she was buried on the property alongside two other graves, whom we assume were his parents. In 1969, the dump closed, and the road became, since it didn't have a lot of traffic going down there for the dump, the road became a hangout for teenagers. William began lining his driveway with animal heads on pikes to kind of preserve his privacy. He didn't want people there, and he seemed to think that putting an animal head on a pike would keep people out of his yard. It would work for me, so, There were reports at that time of an angry man in a rusty Ford truck who'd drive up and down the road yelling at the kids to get off the road and sometimes running them off the road. In 1973, Harris Thompson, he was a utility worker, he turned up missing. He was last seen in the Holland Road area. It is also said that one night, 3 teenage boys decided to go out to William's house and bother him. He caught them, killed them one by one, decapitated them, and placed their heads on a pike. And then after that night, he disappeared. The Derrick house mysteriously burned to the ground, so no human remains were ever found. But the legend lives on, and if you go out to Holland Road at night, it is said, looking for the Pigman, you'll see strange sights, and you'll hear strange sounds. Okay, that's the legend. The facts are, in Vermont, there's an axe-wielding maniac that goes by the name of Pigman. In Texas, there is a Pigman of Bunny Bay Bridge. And in Hawkinsville, Georgia, there's a Pigman Bridge. So we seem to have a Pigman legend scattered throughout the country. There are no records of Harris Tompkins' disappearance, nor are there any records of a fireworks disaster, supposedly where the child got pierced by a fireworks. There is a record of a William Dirk who toured with a sideshow. He shares a birthday with William Derricks, but Dirk was born in Alabama and died in Florida in 1975. He billed himself as a man with 3 eyes, or the man with 2 faces. Obviously, he did have that frontal thing I said.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as legend goes, us as paranormal investigators, I'm not a huge fan of quote unquote legends myself. I like to actually look for if it could be possibly true. Now we have, history, and it kind of sounds like that we have a whole bunch of different histories that are kind of coming together in different areas. To me, now we've been there. We took just some limited stuff with us. It was in the middle of the day. We figured, hey, why not? Because we were up in that area. I mean, what did you guys think?
Well, it does say that you have to go at nighttime, so maybe that's where we failed. It is a little creepy in places. You kind of want to look over your shoulder, but we didn't actually get much evidence to support there being a Pigman. We didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything.
I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, like I said, we are investigators, so for me, it's kind of that gut wrenching thing where we're trying to look for, are we getting any kind of vibes from the area? Now, as far as the Angola horror, which is the train wreck, that could have been adding to some energy in the area that we might have been feeling. I mean, did you feel anything from those?
We did. When we drove down, I believe we stopped twice. And again, this is all about reading the energy and everything. And we stopped because we went from an area where it felt like a country road to an area that felt a little off. So we did stop and we got out, and we found that we had gone perhaps a half car length more. That where we were at, the energy had reverted back to normal country road. When we walked behind the car, you could feel a little bit that something was a little bit off. Mm-hmm. But that's all we had. We didn't have any sounds. We didn't have any gut feelings like we need to take pictures or we need to turn on the recorder. Yeah. We went further. We got back in the car. We went further down the road, and we went through 2 culverts. Mm-hmm. And we stopped on that side too, because again, there was another change. We stopped, we parked, and we walked back through those culverts. And you could actually feel, or at least I could feel, the energy changed on the side of the culverts where we parked, country road. On the other side of those culverts, it was, again, a little off.
And see, that's what I was about to kind of bring up, was between those 2 covered, I mean, I guess you can call them tunnel bridges, really, where the train tracks run over top, just to me felt off. Like there was a type of energy change. It was some type of shift, is what I would say. Just felt kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, kind of heavy, kind of off, like somebody, like you took a half step wrong or something like that. Now, we did have sounds, and I did notice off in the distance there was a dog barking, and it was a smaller dog. I have dogs, so I kind of know dog barking. At night, when you go out there with that mindset, Pigman lives there, and it's dark, and you can't see, and you're a teenager, and you're trying to scare each other, and you yell Pigman into the woods, and that dog is out there. When he barks, you can kind of misconstrue it as a pig squealing. So
definitely.
I can see, I'm not saying this validates the legend, but I can see where this stuff feeds the legend.
And then as far as the energy shifts, could just be from people's terrifying experiences where they have attempted to contact Pigman.
Well, I mean, you have a very valid point, because you got to think this legend's pretty much started since the 1950s, 60s, and into the 70s. I mean, there's been reports of in what was it, 1976, that some teenagers got really scared out there when they took their car out there, in order to, do other things. It said that they ran into the Pigman.
I do think something had to happen along the way for the legend to begin. So whether that is, the Angola horror story that we hear of from the train accident, I do not know, but something originally happened. Somebody saw something that created a legend.
Well, now, Jackie, I know you took some pictures while we were there, and you sent them to a psychic. What kind of reports did you get from that?
Like I say, I gave her the pictures and asked her what she felt or could draw off them. And basically, she came back. I said, we were doing the Legend of the Pigman. She says, well, I don't get that. But she said something, an accident or something. She got a lot of people that were very badly disfigured, I guess is what she said, that they died not nicely.
So there could be some background to at least the Angola horror and the energy in that level.
Oh, the Angola horror did happen. It's been documented, and they investigated it, and they put it down. The accident happened because of what they call a frog in the track. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that one of the rails in between where some rails are going to split off was maybe a half-inch higher than the other one. And the wheel on the second to the last car was a little bit warped. And that's what they put the accident down, what caused the accident.
Okay.
So the Angola horror did actually happen.
Yeah. And it wasn't not from timbers that they know of, or as far as the railroad ties.
Right.
Underneath that, they didn't put anything about those?
No. Which, if you think about it, 2 young kids, they've got a fence to fix. You see how they put those railroad ties. Everybody's gone over tracks. They see the railroad ties. Are those kids going to be out there digging up 2 heavy railroad ties?
Well, and trying to pull the spikes out from the rail and everything else too. That's kind of a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've not done it myself. I've seen it done, and you're pulling out 8-inch spikes.
Yeah.
Out of a trail.
So you got to wonder why include that in the legend if it's so bizarre.
True. Now, as far as with this legend, there is one that's very close to it that's based out of Georgia, correct?
Georgia or Vermont? I can't remember which one.
Okay.
There's so many.
Yeah, there is. I know that there are, but I know that I had read that there is one that's based very close. It's in Georgia, off of another bridge. They're very, very similar. That runs with a train wreck that was in the same type of area with another butcher that did supposedly murder, teenagers or other people. So, spreading that throughout the U.S. Why do you guys think that there might be legends that kind of run hand in hand across that?
Well, it goes with the circus, and the circus traveled everywhere. And it's not only the circus, it's the sideshow. So you're talking about people that look different. You're talking about circuses back in those days, especially then. They were a very closed community. Mm-hmm. So they'd come into town, and people were, I don't know, what do you want to call it, morbid enough that they'd go pay their money to see them, but they didn't trust these people. And if something bad's going to happen, well, it's those freaks out there because they didn't know the people.
Yeah. Another theory could be that if you go as far back as the Bible, the demons were cast into the swine.
That's true.
So, therefore, pigs is associated with demons. Humans are terrified of demons, believe that they kill people, eat children.
So, I mean, as far as, those type of legends, I mean, the thing is about this is that people have ran with this. When you're getting into, how far back everything goes, you have television shows that have done stuff on Holland Road and Pigman Road, along with movies that have made horror movies off of it. I know in 2018, Travel Channel did their hometown horror. That's kind of one of the ways that we learned about it, about the Angola Pigman, is what they ended up titling it. There was a movie called The Holland Road Massacre in 2020, that started running everything about the Pigman. So you have all of these different people that are now feeding into it, which is making it a whole lot bigger and bringing these legends back, into form. But like I said, me as far as a paranormal investigator, I don't try to show a lot into legends.
Yeah. Again, as a paranormal investigator, investigating urban legends is kind of low on my list because they are mostly just really good ghost stories.
Yeah.
So, but as an investigator, I like doing the urban legends because it brings up a point of investigation that a lot of people forget about when you're an investigator. And that is validation and also finding out why this might happen. A small dog barking off in the distance can sound in the middle of the night when you're primed for seeing a pigman, can sound like a pig squealing.
Helps you keep your head straight during a ghost hunt too.
Yeah.
When you consider those things, you got them in the back of your mind.
Well, I mean, I like the historical research side of it, along with the validation that we can find. When we're looking for the story of Pigman is so all over the place that are the names even right?
Yeah.
We're not 100% sure about that. So like if we can find validation, if we're trying to do some type of paranormal hunt at a place where there's a legend, we're trying to get validation, and we're a lot of times, honestly, we haven't gotten validation off of that because a lot of it is, hearsay. You kind of get the what they call the telephone game, where one person tells one person something, and then they have to tell it all the way down the line to the end person. You get some total different story.
Well, the locals that we asked, they never even gave any names.
Yeah.
Not a true history of it, just bits and pieces, and none of their bits or pieces were the same.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to what they've heard.
They just know where it is, and it's a Pigman. And the rest of it, they fill in based on their own personalities.
That's another thing also. I never knew about, and I grew up around there, 35 miles southeast or south of that. But I grew up around there, and I never heard of the Angola horror. That actually happened. That was a train wreck that killed a lot of people. But yet, what do most people say about that area? Legend of the Pigman. The Pigman legend spreads faster and farther than the actual train wreck.
A story will always be more fascinating than history in most people's minds.
Yes, definitely. So as far as this area, I would say welcome people to go visit it, during the day or the night, because it is a pretty cool place to kind of go in and go, oh, there might be, this guy that puts people's heads or even pigs' heads on stakes. Maybe I'll see something.
Just never know.
Yeah. But as far as for me, I was just like, okay, this is, it's cool, but to me, it's not paranormal.
Yeah. And if you go there as a paranormal investigator, or if you want to become a paranormal investigator, or you're semi-serious about this, if you go there with an open mind. When you hear something in the woods, don't stop and think, oh, it sounds like a pigman. Stop and think, what else does it sound like? Yeah. Stop and investigate. Don't just arbitrarily go, yep, pigmans exist.
I mean, could it be a squirrel running through dead leaves in the floor of the forest? Could it be a dog barking, like you said? Could it could be anything. So you have to, that's why we call ourselves paranormal investigators. We need to investigate what we hear, what we see, and everything else around it.
And that's why a lot of the times I think we surprise people such as the Pigman Road. My brother was the one that turned me onto it, and I haven't talked to him, but if I told him that, it didn't happen, he would be surprised and not understanding. Well, you and I, you're a ghost hunter. You investigate. How come you can't see that there's, Legend of the Pigman and all this stuff happens? Because I am a ghost hunter. I cannot say there's paranormal activity there if I have a possible another excuse for the activity that's going on.
Exactly. So, I mean, overall, I would just say my feelings about it is it's a legend. Legends can live forever. They cannot. I myself, like I said, the Angola horror, the train wreck, it happened. We know for a fact that happened, and there might be things based off of that. But as far as Pigman, nah, I don't think that happened.
Yeah, or if it did happen there, he was afraid of us, and he booked before we got there.
We are kind of crazy.
Just never know.
With that being said, this has been Not Just Ghost Stories, and we have been your host, Josh,
Laura,
Jackie.
And until next time, you can find pictures and findings and contact us about today's episode on all social media platforms at Not Just Ghost Stories. Thanks.